Joy Beaudry lay perfectly still. One wrong breath. One wrong heartbeat. That's all it would take. The bed was too small. The room was too warm. And the man sitting on its edge, tattoos crawling across his bare back like ancient scripture, was the most dangerous wolf alive. Carlos Jeffrey, the Alpha King, the man who had executed her father. Firelight danced across the stone walls, casting shadows that twisted like conspirators. Outside, the blizzard screamed. Inside, Joy's heart hammered so loud she was certain he could hear it. But the mark on her chest. The mark was burning. Joy pressed her hand against it, trying to smother the glow seeping through her threadbare shift. The jagged lines pulsed with dull crimson light, responding to something. To him. Broken blood. That's what they called it. A curse. A stain. The reason she'd been exiled. The reason her father had been framed. If Carlos turned around, if he saw the glow, he would know exactly who shared his bed. And she would die before dawn. You're trembling. His voice cut through the silence. Low, rough, not a question. Joy's throat closed. The cold, she whispered. He didn't respond, but slowly, terribly, Carlos Jeffrey turned his head. Firelight caught his jaw, his cheek, the edge of his golden eyes. Then come closer. The words hung in the air like a noose. Joy didn't move. She couldn't. The tears she'd been holding back slipped free, tracing silver lines down her temples and into her hair. And the mark on her chest burned brighter. 3 hours earlier, the inn had smelled of wet wool and desperation. Joy pushed through the door, snow clinging to her cloak, fingers numb inside her gloves. The common room was packed. Merchants, drifters, wolves fleeing something they wouldn't name. Every table full, every corner occupied. She understood. She was fleeing too. The innkeeper stood behind the bar, an older man with milky eyes that stared at nothing, blind. His head tilted at her entrance, nostrils flaring. Another lost soul, he murmured. The storm brings them all to my door. I need a room. Joy kept her voice low, rough, unrecognizable. Anything. Gone. All gone. The blind man, Aldrich, according to the carved sign above the bar, shook his head. One left, but it's been claimed. By whom? The door exploded open behind her. Wind, snow, cold that bit through cloth and flesh, and him. Joy didn't need to turn around. She felt him, a pressure against her spine, a weight in the air that made the fire gutter and the wolves at nearby tables shrink into their seats. Alpha. The word whispered through the room like a prayer, or curse. She stepped aside, head down, hood drawn, made herself small, made herself invisible. It didn't matter. Carlos Jeffrey moved past her like she was furniture. His shoulder brushed hers, barely a touch, and heat shot through her body like lightning. The mark on her chest pulsed. No, 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 no. She pressed her hand against it, willing it to stay dark. Stay hidden. Stay dead. The room, Carlos said to Aldrich. His voice was thunder wrapped in velvet. I'll take it. Of course, my lord. I'll have the fire. Wait. Joy's blood turned to ice. Carlos had stopped. His head turned, not quite looking at her, but aware, like a predator sensing movement in tall grass. You. He addressed her shadow. You need a room. It wasn't a question. I'll find somewhere else, Joy whispered. Where? The stable? A ghost of dark amusement crossed his face. The rogues circling outside would enjoy that. Easy prey. Rogues. She had seen them on the road, feral wolves with madness in their eyes, drawn by the storm. Drawn by something else, perhaps. Something she didn't want to name. I'll manage. You'll die. Silence. Carlos studied her, or tried to. Her hood hid everything. Her scent was buried under days of travel and deliberate masking herbs. But his eyes were trying to peel back every layer. "One room," he said finally. "One bed. I don't share well, but I share better than the wolves outside." Joy's hands trembled inside her gloves. "Say no. Run. Take your chances with the rogues." But the rogues would kill her fast. Carlos would kill her slow. Only if he discovered who she was. If. "Fine," she heard herself say. Carlos nodded once, turned back to Aldrich. "2 keys." The blind innkeeper's lips curled into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Of course, my lord. I'll bring wine to warm you both." Joy followed Carlos up the narrow stairs, each step feeling like a walk toward her own execution. She was sharing a bed with the man who had destroyed her family, and he had no idea. The room was a coffin with a fireplace. Joy stood frozen in the doorway, calculating. One window, shuttered against the storm. One door, the one Carlos was currently locking behind them. One bed, barely wide enough for 2 bodies that didn't want to touch. And one fireplace, already crackling with flames that threw dancing shadows across the walls. Nowhere to hide. "You can stop clutching that cloak like armor." Carlos moved past her, unbuckling his sword belt. "I don't bite, unless provoked." Joy said nothing. Her fingers tightened on the fabric. He tossed the sword onto a chair, then his traveling cloak, then, oh gods, his shirt. Carlos pulled it over his head in one fluid motion, and Joy forgot how to breathe. Tattoos. They covered his back like a map of violence, swirling patterns of black ink that crawled from his shoulders to his waist. She recognized the symbols. Every wolf recognized them. The marks of the royal bloodline, the chronicle of kings, each kill, each conquest, each enemy destroyed, written in ink and flesh for eternity. And there, at the center of his spine, the sigil of House Jeffrey, a crown wrapped in thorns. Joy had seen that sigil before, pressed into hot wax on her father's execution order. "You're staring." She flinched. Carlos hadn't turned around, but he knew. Of course he knew. Alphas always knew. "The tattoos," she managed. "They're extensive. They're heavy." He rolled his shoulders, muscles shifting beneath ink. "Every mark is a memory. Some memories weigh more than others. Like the memory of an innocent man's blood on your hands?" Joy swallowed the words, buried them deep. "The bed." Carlos finally turned, and she dropped her gaze immediately. "You take the left side, I'll take the right. We stay clothed, we stay separate. Dawn comes, we go our separate ways. Understood?" "Understood." "Good." He moved toward the bed, and Joy realized with horror that she would have to move too. Would have to lie beside him. Would have to survive an entire night inches from the man hunting her. "The cloak stays on." Carlos raised an eyebrow. "I'm cold." "The fire is—" "I'm cold." Something flickered in his golden eyes. Suspicion, curiosity, both equally dangerous. But he didn't press. "Suit yourself." He lowered himself onto the right side of the bed, the frame groaning under his weight. His back faced her, a canvas of royal history and brutal conquest. Joy approached the left side like it was a cliff's edge. "You can do this. One night. Just one night." She lay down, stiff as a corpse, staring at the ceiling. The fire crackled, the wind howled, and between them, a chasm of 6 inches that felt like the distance between life and death. "Relax." Carlos's voice was almost amused. "I told you, I don't bite." No, you just execute innocent men and hunt their daughters across the realm. I'm relaxed, Joy lied. You're rigid as a blade. Old habit. Silence fell, and beneath her cloak, pressed against her chest, the broken blood mark began to warm. Responding to him, calling to him, betraying her. Sleep didn't come. Joy lay in the darkness, listening to Carlos breathe. Deep, even, the rhythm of a predator at rest. But he wasn't sleeping either. She could tell by the tension in his shoulders, the slight shifts of his weight, the way his fingers drummed once, twice, against the mattress before falling still. You're running from something. His voice shattered the silence. Joy's heart seized. Everyone in that common room was running from something, she whispered. It's that kind of night. It's that kind of world. The fire had burned low, casting the room in shades of ember and shadow. Orange light caught the edge of Carlos's jaw as he spoke to the ceiling. I'm hunting someone. Don't react. Don't breathe. Don't exist. A traitor, he continued. An Omega who witnessed my father's murder 3 years ago. She was there when he died. She saw it happen. Joy's nails dug into her palms beneath the cloak. And instead of speaking the truth, she ran, disappeared like smoke, left her own father to take the blame. Lies. All lies. Her father was executed for regicide. Carlos's voice hardened. He died swearing his innocence, swearing his daughter could prove it, but she was already gone. The mark on Joy's chest burned hotter. She pressed her hand against it, feeling the heat seep through her fingers. I didn't run because I was guilty. I ran because no one would have believed me. Do you know what I remember most about that night? Carlos turned his head slightly, not looking at her, looking at the memory. The smell, blood and something else. Something chemical. Poison, they said. Widow's tear. The coward's weapon. Joy couldn't move, couldn't speak. My father was the strongest alpha in 5 generations. He could have fought off a dozen wolves. But poison. Carlos's jaw clenched. Poison doesn't fight fair. Neither did the man who used it, the man you trust with your kingdom. When I find her, the Omega, I'm going to look her in the eyes. His voice dropped to something cold, something final. I'm going to make her tell me the truth, every detail, every second of my father's death. And then? The words escaped before Joy could stop. Them. Carlos was silent for a long moment. And then she'll answer for what she allowed to happen. Allowed, not committed. Allowed. Even in his grief, even in his rage, some part of him knew the Omega hadn't held the blade, hadn't administered the poison. But it didn't matter. She had been there, she had seen, and she had run. In the eyes of the crown, that was enough. What was her name? Joy whispered. The Omega. Joy. The word fell from his lips like a stone into still water. Joy Beaudry. Hearing her own name in his mouth, it was like being buried alive. Strange name for a traitor, she managed. Strange world, Carlos replied. The fire crackled, the wind screamed, and Joy Beaudry lay beside her own executioner, listening to him describe the noose he was building for her neck. Joy waited until Carlos's breathing deepened. Not true sleep. She doubted the Alpha King ever truly slept. But something close. A rest state. A lowering of defenses. It was enough. She slipped from the bed like smoke, feet silent on the cold wooden floor. The fire had burned to embers. The room was shadow and secrets. The mark on her chest still glowed faintly. She could see it through her shift, a dull, crimson pulse that matched her heartbeat. Being near him was making it worse. awakening something she had spent 3 years trying to bury. She needed help. She needed to disappear. The stairs creaked beneath her weight, but the howling wind covered the sound. The common room below was empty now. Travelers had retreated to whatever corners they could find. Only the fire remained, dying slowly in the massive hearth. And Aldrich. The blind innkeeper sat in a chair by the flames, milky eyes staring at nothing. His head turned as Joy descended the final step. "The king's bedmate," he murmured. "You walk like a woman carrying ghosts." Joy froze. "I don't know what You're breathing." Aldrich tapped his ear. Shallow, frightened, the rhythm of prey pretending to be furniture. His lips curved. "I've heard it before, many times. This inn sees all kinds of runners." Joy approached slowly, keeping her voice low. "I need something, a scent masker, something strong." "Running from the wolf upstairs? Running from everyone?" Aldrich's blind gaze seemed to pierce her anyway. His nostrils flared. "You're the one he's hunting." Not a question. "The Beaudry girl, the witness." Ice flooded Joy's veins. "How?" "I'm blind, not deaf. I've heard the proclamations, the bounty announcements. Joy Beaudry, Omega, wanted for conspiracy in the death of King Aldrich Geoffrey." He chuckled. "They named him after me, you know. The old king. We were boys together, centuries ago." Joy's hands trembled. "Are you going to turn me in?" Silence stretched. Then Aldrich reached into his coat and withdrew a small vial. Dark liquid sloshed inside. "Moonshade extract. 3 drops on your pulse points. It will mask your scent, your true scent, until dawn." Joy stared at the vial. "Why? Would you help me?" "Because I remember the old king, and I remember the truth of how he died." Aldrich pressed the vial into her palm. "The crown's justice isn't always just, girl. Some of us remember that." Hope flickered in Joy's chest. Dangerous, desperate. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet." Aldrich's grip tightened on her wrist. His blind eyes seemed to find hers with terrible precision. "The king's intuition sees what the nose cannot. Be careful what you reveal in sleep. Wolves like him read dreams like open books." He released her. "Go, before he wakes and wonders where his bedmate wandered." Joy clutched the vial and fled back up the stairs, heart pounding. 3 drops on her pulse points. 3 drops to survive until dawn. She didn't see Aldrich's smile fade as she disappeared. She didn't see him reach for a second vial hidden in his coat. She didn't see the word etched into its glass. Widow's tear Joy eased open the bedroom door. 1 inch, 2. The hinges stayed silent. A small mercy from the gods who had abandoned her long ago. She slipped inside and stopped. Carlos was sitting up. The furs pooled around his waist. Firelight carved shadows across his tattooed chest. His golden eyes were fixed on the door, on her, with the patience of a predator who had all the time in the world. "You were gone." 3 words, each one a trap. "I needed water." Joy kept her voice steady, bored. "The fire dried my throat. The pitcher is beside the bed." "Damn. I didn't see it in the dark." Carlos said nothing. His gaze traveled over her. The cloak she still clutched like armor, the flush on her cheeks, the way her fingers trembled at her sides. He didn't believe her. She could see it in his eyes, the calculation, the suspicion, the slow turning of a mind built to uncover lies. But he didn't press. Not yet. "Come back to bed." He lay down, turning his back to her once more. "Dawn is hours away. Whatever secrets you're keeping can wait until morning." Joy's blood ran cold. He knows something is wrong. He just doesn't know what. She crossed to the bed, movements mechanical. The moonshade extract was already drying on her pulse points, wrists, throat, behind her ears. 3 drops, 3 prayers. Outside, a wolf howled. Then another. Then a chorus, rising, falling, circling. The rogues were closer now. The siege was tightening, and Joy Beaudry climbed back into bed with her executioner, wondering which would kill her first. Sleep still refused to come. Joy lay rigid on her side of the bed, counting Carlos's breaths like a prisoner counting days. The moonshade extract tingled on her skin, working, she hoped, hiding her, protecting her. But Aldrich's warning echoed in her skull. The king's intuition sees what the nose cannot. "You're still awake." Carlos's voice made her flinch. He hadn't moved, still facing away, still a wall of tattooed muscle and barely contained violence. "So are you," she whispered. "I don't sleep well. Haven't for 3 years. 3 years, the same amount of time since his father died, since her father was executed, since everything she loved burned to ash." "Bad dreams?" Joy asked. "Bad memories?" The fire crackled, shadows twisted on the walls. "My father died in my arms." The words came slowly, like stones dragged from a riverbed. "Did you know that? The proclamations don't mention it, the history books won't record it, but I was there." Joy's chest tightened. She remembered. God's help her, she remembered. "He was attending a feast," Carlos continued, "celebrating a treaty with the northern Pax. I was across the room when he started to seize. By the time I reached him..." His voice cracked, just once, just barely. But Joy heard it, the grief beneath the granite. His eyes were open. He was trying to speak, trying to tell me something. Carlos's hand curled into a fist against the mattress. But the poison had already taken his voice. All he could do was look at me and die. Silence. Joy felt tears threatening again. Not for herself this time, not for her father, for the boy who had watched his father die and spent 3 years turning grief into rage. He doesn't know. He doesn't know who really killed him. "The Omega who was there," Carlos said. "The Beaudry girl. She was serving wine that night. She was the last person to hand my father a cup. I didn't know. I didn't know it was poisoned. I was just a servant following orders. Sometimes I wonder what she saw." His voice dropped. Whether she watched him die, whether she enjoyed it. Maybe she was just scared. The words escaped before Joy could catch them. Carlos went still. What? Maybe she didn't run because she was guilty. Joy's heart hammered. Maybe she ran because she knew no one would believe her, because the real killer was still out there, and speaking up meant dying. Silence stretched like a blade. Slowly, Carlos turned. His golden eyes found hers in the darkness, searching, probing, trying to peel back the shadows of her hood. "That's a generous interpretation," he said quietly, "for a traitor." "I've known a few traitors in my time." Joy held his gaze, even though it terrified her. Sometimes the crown puts that name on anyone who's inconvenient. Something flickered in his expression. Doubt. Just a flicker. Just a crack. But it was there. "You speak like someone who's been on the wrong side of justice." Joy looked away. Everyone's been on the wrong side of something. The fire died a little more, and the cracks in Carlos Jeffrey's armor spread deeper. The fire died sometime before midnight. Joy felt the cold creep in first. A slow invasion through the stone walls, beneath the door, into the marrow of her bones. She curled tighter, pulling her cloak around her shoulders, teeth threatening to chatter. "Don't move. Don't wake him. Don't." Warmth. It pressed against her back like a furnace. An arm, heavy, muscled, tattooed, slid across her waist. Breath stirred the hair at her nape, slow and even. Carlos. In his sleep, he had crossed the invisible line between them. His body curved around hers like it belonged there, chest to spine, thighs to thighs, his chin resting against the top of her head. Joy stopped breathing. Move. Push him away. Create distance. She didn't move. Couldn't. His arm tightened, pulling her closer. A low sound rumbled in his chest. Not quite a growl, not quite a purr. Something primal. Something that made the mark on her chest flare with sudden heat. No. No, no, no. The broken blood was responding to him. To the alpha energy radiating from his skin. To the ancient pull between predator and prey that no amount of moonshade could fully mask. Joy clenched her jaw, fighting the warmth spreading through her veins. This was wrong. He was her enemy. He had killed her father. He would kill her if he discovered the truth. But her body didn't care about truth. Her body only knew that she was cold, and he was warm, and the wolf. Inside her, the wolf she had suppressed for 3 years, was responding. Carlos stirred. His nose brushed the curve of her neck, inhaling. Joy's heart stopped. The moonshade, is it still working? Can he smell me? Can he? You're warm, he murmured against her skin. Still asleep. Still dreaming. Joy didn't answer, didn't dare. His hand spread across her stomach, palm flat, fingers splayed. Possessive, protective. Like she was something precious. Like she was his. Tears leaked from the corners of her eyes. This was what she had wanted once, before her father's death, before her exile. She had dreamed of finding her mate, an alpha who would hold her like this, who would keep her safe, who would burn the world for her. Instead, the universe had given her Carlos Jeffrey, the man who had signed her father's death warrant, the man whose advisor had truly held the blade, the man who would wake in a few hours and resume his hunt for her blood. Joy lay perfectly still, feeling his heartbeat against her spine, counting the seconds until dawn. The moonshade was fading. She could feel it wearing thin, her true scent beginning to seep through the cracks. She had hours at most, maybe less. Outside, the rogues howled again, closer now, circling, waiting. The siege was tightening. The storm was worsening, and Joy was trapped between the wolves outside and the wolf wrapped around her body. I have to get out of here. I have to survive until morning. I have to... Carlos's arm tightened, and Joy Beaudry closed her eyes, letting the warmth of her enemy seep into her frozen bones. Just for a moment. Just until dawn. Glass shattered somewhere below. Joy's eyes flew open. Carlos was already moving, rolling off the bed, grabbing his sword, every trace of sleep gone in an instant. Screams erupted from the common room. Rogues! Carlos's voice was ice and iron. They've breached the inn! More glass, more screams. The sound of furniture splintering, bodies hitting walls, wolves snarling with mindless fury. Carlos turned to her, golden eyes blazing in the dying firelight. Stay here. Bar the door. Don't open it for anyone but me. But anyone! He didn't wait for a response. The door flew open, and then he was gone, a shadow descending into chaos, sword singing free of its sheath. Joy scrambled out of bed. Her hands trembled as she threw the iron bar across the door. The screams below were getting worse, not just fear now, but pain, death. The wet sounds of flesh being torn. The rogues aren't natural. Someone sent them. Someone... She stopped. Carlos's belongings sat in the corner. His traveling pack, his cloak, his... The signet ring. She had seen it earlier when he'd removed his gloves. a heavy gold band on his right hand, stamped with the royal crest. He had taken it off before sleeping, placed it on the bedside table like it was nothing, like it wasn't the key to everything. Joy crossed the room, heart pounding. Below, she heard Carlos roar, a sound that shook the walls, that made the rogue's snarls turn to whimpers. He was fighting, winning. She had minutes at most. Her fingers closed around the ring. It was heavier than she expected, warm from his skin, thrumming with something that felt almost alive. She turned it over. The royal crest gleamed in the firelight. But there, along the inner band, a seam, almost invisible, a hidden compartment. Joy pressed it. The ring clicked open. Inside, nestled in a tiny hollow, was a residue. Crystalline, faintly purple. Joy's blood turned to ice. She knew that color, knew that smell, sweet, cloying, like rotting flowers. Widow's tear, the same poison that had killed the old king, the same poison her father had been accused of using, the same poison that had destroyed her entire life. But this ring didn't belong to her father. This ring belonged to... Joy's mind raced. Carlos wore it now, but signet rings were passed down. Inherited, borrowed, given. She thought of the royal court, the advisors, the men who stood behind the throne and whispered in the king's ear. Lord Soren Blackwell, Carlos's closest confidant, his father's most trusted advisor, the man who had first pointed the finger at Joy's father, the man who had handed her that cup of wine 3 years ago. "Give this to the king, girl, quickly now." She had never questioned it, never suspected. She was just a servant following orders. But Blackwell had known. Blackwell had planned. Below, the sounds of fighting faded. Carlos's voice rang out, commanding, controlled. He was coming back. Joy snapped the ring closed, placed it exactly where she'd found it, and retreated to the bed. Her hands were shaking. Her mind was screaming. She finally knew who had killed the king. Now she just had to survive long enough to prove it. The door rattled. "Open it." Carlos's voice, commanding, impatient. Joy threw back the bar. He pushed through, blood splattered across his chest, a gash on his forearm, golden eyes, still burning with battle fury. "They're dead, 6 of them." He moved to the water basin, began washing the blood from his hands. "Ferals, mindless, but organized enough to breach fortified walls." Organized. Joy's mind raced. Feral rogues didn't organize, didn't strategize. They were rabid wolves operating on instinct alone. Unless someone was controlling them, unless someone had sent them. She thought of the signet ring, the widow's tear, Lord Soren Blackwell standing in the royal court, whispering poison into the ears of kings. He killed Carlos's father, framed mine. And now he's tying up loose ends. The rogues weren't random. They were assassins. And Joy was the target. "You're pale." Carlos's voice snapped her back. He was watching her, shirt discarded, water dripping down his tattooed chest, eyes sharp as flint. "The screaming," Joy managed. "I've never heard anyone die like that." A lie. She had heard worse. She had heard her father's neck snap on the executioner's block while a crowd cheered. But Carlos didn't need to know that. Death sounds different up close. He crossed to the bed, sat heavily on the edge. The same position as before. The same view of his back, the royal chronicle, the crown of thorns, the weight of a kingdom written in ink. Joy stared at his spine and thought about the ring in his pack. Does he know? Does he suspect his own advisor? No, he couldn't. If Carlos knew the truth, Blackwell would already be dead. The Alpha King was many things, Lethal, grieving, obsessive. But he wasn't a fool. He was a weapon pointed in the wrong direction. I could tell him. Right now. Show him the ring. Explain everything. But would he believe her? The exiled Omega accused of his father's murder, suddenly producing evidence against his most trusted friend? He would think it was a trick, a desperate lie. He would kill her before she finished speaking. I need proof he can't deny. I need a sound from below. Voices. Low. Urgent. Joy's head snapped toward the door. What is it? Carlos frowned. Nothing. She forced her voice calm. I thought I heard something. But her blood had turned to ice, because one of those voices belonged to Aldrich, and he was saying her name. Joy waited until Carlos's breathing deepened again. The battle had exhausted him. Even Alpha's had limits. His wounds were closing, his body healing, but the cost was consciousness. He slept now, truly slept, sprawled across the bed like a fallen god. She slipped out, down the stairs, through the shadows, toward the voices she had heard. The common room was a slaughterhouse. Rogue bodies lay scattered across the floor, torn apart, broken, discarded like garbage. The survivors had barricaded themselves in the kitchen. No one noticed the cloaked woman descending from the Alpha King's bedroom. No one except the blind innkeeper. Aldrich stood by the back door, his milky eyes fixed on nothing. But he wasn't alone. A hooded figure stood outside, face hidden, voice low. Joy pressed herself against the wall, barely breathing. The girl is still alive. Aldrich's voice, calm, clinical. The king keeps her close, closer than expected. That's a problem. The hooded figure, male, cold. Lord Blackwell wants no witnesses. Not the girl, not the king. Joy's heart stopped. Blackwell. The rogues failed, Aldrich continued. 6 dead. The king is wounded but functional. Then we moved to the contingency. Aldrich reached into his coat, withdrew a vial, dark glass, small enough to hide in a palm. Joy recognized it. Widow's tear. In the wine, the hooded figure instructed. The king will drink when he wakes. They always drink after battle. And the girl? Kill her however you like. Make it look like the rogues did it. Lord Blackwell wants deniability. Aldrich nodded, tucking the vial away. It will be done before dawn. The hooded figure melted into the storm. Aldrich turned, his blind gaze sweeping the common room, passing over the spot where Joy stood, frozen in shadow. For one terrible moment, she thought he saw her. But his head turned away. His footsteps carried him toward the kitchen, and Joy Beaudry stood alone in the blood-soaked darkness, realizing the depth of her mistake. The innkeeper had never been her ally. The scent masker was probably useless, or worse, designed to make her easier to track. Everything had been a trap. And now she had a choice. Flee into the storm and let Carlos die, or return to his bed and try to save the man who had destroyed her life. Her feet were moving before she made the decision. Joy reached the bedroom door just as Aldrich's footsteps creaked on the stairs. No, 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 no! She slipped inside, heart hammering. Carlos was stirring. The sounds below had roused him. His hand was already reaching for his sword. Easy. Joy held up her hands. It's me? His golden eyes found her in the darkness. Suspicious, alert. You were gone again. I heard voices. I wanted to check. A knock at the door. My lord! Aldrich's voice, gentle, concerned, lying. I've brought wine for your wounds. Battle takes a toll, even on kings. Carlos relaxed, set down his sword. Enter. No. Joy opened her mouth to scream a warning, but Aldrich was already through the door. Tray in hand, goblet gleaming, the picture of humble servitude. "The storm is worsening, my lord. The rogues are scattered, but more may come." He extended the goblet. "Drink. Regain your strength." Carlos reached for the wine. Joy's hand shot out. "Wait!" But she was too late. Carlos drank deeply, draining half the goblet in one swallow. He lowered it with a sigh, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. "Good vintage." Aldrich smiled. Those milky eyes turned toward Joy, and in them she saw triumph. "Only the best for the king." He bowed, retreated. The door clicked shut. Silence. Joy stared at Carlos, counting the seconds, waiting for the poison to take hold. "How long? How long do I have?" "You look terrified." Carlos frowned. "It was just wine." "It wasn't?" His frown deepened. "What are you—" His hand spasmed. The goblet shattered on the floor, and Carlos Jeffrey, Alpha King, collapsed onto the bed, eyes wide, body rigid, completely paralyzed. Carlos couldn't move. Joy watched the horror bloom in his golden eyes, the realization, the fury, the helplessness. His jaw clenched, his fingers twitched, but nothing else responded. Widow's tear didn't kill quickly. It paralyzed first. Let the victim watch their own death approach with perfect clarity. Her father had died the same way. "What?" Carlos's voice was a rasp. Even his vocal cords were seizing. "What did you—" "Not me." Joy knelt beside the bed, her hands hovering over his rigid body. "The innkeeper. He poisoned the wine." "Aldrich?" "He's working for Lord Blackwell. They both are. The innkeeper, the rogues, all of it. A conspiracy to kill you and blame me." Carlos's eyes widened. "Blackwell is my father's—" "Murderer." The word tasted like ash. "Blackwell killed your father 3 years ago. He used widow's tear then, too. Slipped it into the wine I served at the feast." "You—" "I didn't know." Tears burned Joy's eyes. "I was just a servant. Blackwell handed me the cup and told me to give it to the king. I never suspected. I never—" A crash below, glass shattering, snarls rising. More rogues. "He's finishing the job," Joy whispered. "Killing you. Killing me. Erasing everyone who knows the truth." Carlos's throat worked. His paralyzed body trembled with the effort of speech. "Run." "What?" "Run!" His golden eyes burned into hers, not with hatred anymore, with something else, something desperate. "They want you dead. I'm already— I can't—" "You can't protect me." Joy laughed, a broken sound. "You've been hunting me for 3 years. You executed my father, and now you want to save me?" "I was wrong." The words hung in the air. "I was wrong." Carlos's voice cracked. "About you, about your father, about everything. Blackwell, he was there that night. He was the one who pointed the finger, the one who—" Another crash. Closer now. The rogues were inside. "I'm sorry." Tears streamed down Carlos's frozen face. "I'm sorry for what I did to your family. I'm sorry I didn't see—" "Stop." Joy pressed her hand against his chest, felt his heart hammering beneath her palm, strong but slowing. The poison was spreading. "You don't get to apologize and die," she hissed. "That's too easy. You're going to live, Carlos Jeffrey. You're going to live, and you're going to fix what you broke." "I can't. The poison—" "I know." She pulled open her shift, exposing the mark on her chest. Carlos's eyes went wide. The broken blood was glowing, not the dull crimson of before. Something brighter, something alive. The jagged lines pulsed with silver light, responding to the poison in his veins, calling to it. "What are you doing?" Carlos breathed. Joy placed both hands on his chest. Something stupid. She closed her eyes and opened the floodgates. The window exploded inward. Glass and snow and fury. A rogue wolf crashed through the shutters, landing on all fours in the center of the room. Its eyes were white. Foam dripped from its jaws. Whatever mind it once had was long gone. Behind it came another. And another. 3 feral wolves. No, 4, 5. Pouring through the shattered window like a flood of teeth and madness. Aldrich's voice drifted up from below. Finish them both. Leave no witnesses. Then the back door slammed. The blind innkeeper was gone, fled into the storm with his master's secrets and his 30 pieces of silver. Joy stood between the bed and the wolves. No weapon, no pack, no training. Just the mark on her chest, blazing like a fallen star. The first rogue lunged. Joy threw herself sideways, crashing into the bedside table. The wolf's jaws snapped shut inches from her throat. She grabbed the water pitcher, ceramic, heavy, and smashed it across the creature's skull. It barely slowed. Joy! Carlos's voice was a strangled whisper. His body remained frozen, eyes tracking the chaos with helpless fury. Get out! Leave me! Shut up! The second rogue circled left. The third circled right, flanking her, herding her away from the bed, away from Carlos. They're not mindless. Someone's directing them. The fourth wolf attacked. It hit her from behind, claws raking down her shoulder. Pain exploded. Hot, wet, real. Joy screamed, spinning, driving her elbow into the creature's throat. It yelped and retreated. But the fifth was already moving, massive, scarred, the pack leader. It didn't lunge. It stalked, yellow eyes fixed on Joy with terrible intelligence. This one knows exactly what it's doing. You're the shepherd, Joy breathed. The one controlling the others. The scarred wolf's lips peeled back, almost a smile. It pounced. Joy raised her arms, a futile defense against 200 pounds of killing fury. She felt jaws close. Around her forearm, felt bones grind, felt the world narrow to a single point of agony. This is how I die. Not in the snow, not on the executioner's block. Here, now, protecting the man who destroyed my life. The mark on her chest screamed. Silver light erupted from her body, blinding, burning, impossible. The scarred wolf released her arm, howling in pain. The other rogues stumbled back, their white eyes searing in the radiance. Joy fell to her knees. The light wasn't just light. It was pulling, drawing something from the air, from the wolves, from Carlos's paralyzed body behind her. Poison. She could feel it now. The widow's tear in Carlos's veins, creeping toward his heart. The mark was reaching for it, calling to it, absorbing it. No! Joy gasped. Not yet! I have to! But the broken blood didn't listen. It had awakened, and it was hungry. The silver light intensified, swallowing the room, swallowing the wolves, swallowing Joy herself in a radiance that felt like dying and being born at the same time. Carlos's voice, distant and desperate. Joy, what are you doing? She couldn't answer. The mark had taken over, and Joy Beaudry was no longer in control. Agony, pure, absolute, endless. Joy felt the poison enter her body like liquid fire, threading through her veins, scorching her organs, eating her from the inside out. The widow's tear that had been killing Carlos was now killing her. But the mark didn't stop. It pulled harder, faster, draining every drop of poison from his blood into hers. The jagged lines on her chest blazed white-hot, branding themselves deeper into her flesh. Broken blood, not broken, never broken. Memories flooded her mind. Not her own. Older, ancient. Generations of women bearing this mark, carrying this burden, wielding this power. The conduit, the vessel, the last defense. Her ancestors hadn't been cursed. They had been chosen. The broken blood was a weapon, designed to absorb corruption, to cleanse poison, to take the darkness of the world into itself and transform it. Joy screamed. The poison reached her heart. She felt it squeeze, felt her pulse stutter, her lungs seize, her vision blur. This was death. This was the end. No. The mark pulsed. You are not finished. The pain shifted, changed. The fire in her veins became something else, something electric, something alive. The poison wasn't destroying her. She was destroying it. Joy's eyes flew open. Silver. Her eyes were pure silver, blazing with the same light that poured from her chest. She rose from the floor, not standing, rising, her feet leaving the ground as power crackled through every fiber of her being. The rogues cowered. Even the scarred leader, the shepherd, whimpered and pressed itself against the wall. Whatever intelligence had driven it was gone now, replaced by pure animal terror. They could feel what she had become. Apex. Joy raised her hand. The silver light responded, streaming from her palm like a river of moonfire, washing over the rogues with terrible gentleness. They didn't burn, didn't bleed. They simply stopped. One by one, the feral wolves collapsed, not dead, cleansed. The madness drained from their eyes, replaced by confusion, exhaustion, and finally, unconsciousness. 5 rogues, neutralized in seconds. Joy lowered her hand. The power receded, slowly, reluctantly, pulling back into the mark like a tide returning to the sea. Her feet touched the floor. Her silver eyes faded to their normal brown. She swayed. Joy. Carlos's voice, rough, alive. She turned. He was sitting up, moving. The paralysis had lifted. Every trace of widow's tear purged from his system. His golden eyes stared at her with something she had never seen before. Not suspicion, not hatred, not the cold calculation of a hunter. Awe. What? He swallowed. What are you? Joy looked down at herself. Blood soaked her shift. From her wounds, from the poison she had absorbed, from the battle that had almost killed them. Both. The mark on her chest still glowed faintly, pulsing, waiting. I don't know, she whispered. It was the truth. 3 years of running, 3 years of hiding, and she had never understood what she truly was. Until now. The poison, Carlos said. You took it into yourself. You should be dead. I know. But you're not. No. She met his eyes. I'm not. The scarred wolf stirred. Joy felt it before she saw it, a ripple of malevolence cutting through the fog of exhaustion. The shepherd wasn't cleansed. It was playing dead. And now it was rising. Joy! Carlos tried to stand, but his legs buckled. The poison was gone, but his body was still recovering. He was weak, vulnerable, human. The scarred wolf lunged, not at Joy, at Carlos. Time slowed. Joy watched the massive beast arc through the air, jaws wide, eyes blazing with cold intelligence. This wasn't feral madness. This was purpose. Someone had programmed this wolf to kill the king, and it would complete its mission even if every other rogue fell. No. The mark ignited. Joy didn't think, didn't plan. She simply moved, faster than she had ever moved, faster than any Omega should be capable of moving. She intercepted the wolf mid-flight, her hand closing around its throat. Silver fire erupted from her palm. The wolf screamed, a sound no natural creature should make. It thrashed in her grip, claws raking her arms, teeth snapping inches from her face. Joy didn't let go. You don't get to touch him! Her voice wasn't her own. It was layered, echoing with the voices of every woman who had carried this mark before her. He is mine to judge, mine to punish, mine to forgive. The silver fire intensified. The wolf's struggles weakened. Its eyes, those cold, intelligent eyes, flickered with something like fear. Then recognition. You know what I am, Joy whispered. You know what this mark means. The wolf went limp. Joy released it. The creature crumpled to the floor, breathing but broken. Not physically, but spiritually. Whatever dark will had driven it was gone, scorched away by the silver flame. Silence fell. Joy stood in the center of the ruined room, surrounded by unconscious wolves, bathed in the dying light of her own power. Her shift was torn. Her arms were bleeding. Her body screamed with exhaustion. But she was standing, and for the first time in 3 years, she wasn't afraid. Joy. Carlos's voice was barely a whisper. She turned. He was staring at her, not at her wounds, not at the destruction, but at her. His golden eyes held no suspicion, no calculation, no trace of the hunter who had pursued her across kingdoms. Just wonder, just reverence. The stories, he breathed. The old legends, the conduits, the women who could absorb corruption and transform it. I thought they were myths. So did I. Your mark, it's not broken blood. No. Joy looked down at her chest. The jagged lines had changed, no longer chaotic and fragmented, but unified. A pattern was emerging. A sigil. The sigil of the lunar sovereigns. I'm the last one, she said quietly. The last conduit. The last of my bloodline. Carlos struggled to his feet, swayed, steadied himself against the bedpost. Then everything I believed, everything I did, was based on lies. She met his eyes. Lies that Lord Blackwell fed you, lies that killed my father, lies that almost killed us both. The weight of truth crashed down on Carlos Jeffrey's shoulders, and the Alpha King had nothing to say. Dawn crept through the shattered window. Gray light spilled across the destruction, the broken glass, the unconscious wolves, the blood-stained floor. The storm had finally died, leaving behind a silence that felt like the world holding its breath. Joy stood by the window, watching the sun rise over the frozen landscape. Her wounds had stopped bleeding. The mark on her chest had faded to a soft silver glow. She felt empty, hollow, like the fire that had burned inside her had consumed everything and left only ash. Joy. Carlos's voice, stronger now. He had found his feet, found his strength. The Alpha King was returning, but he approached her like she was something fragile, something sacred. I need to say, don't. She turned to face him. Those golden eyes, the eyes that had haunted her nightmares for 3 years, were red-rimmed, wet. The Alpha King had been crying. I executed your father. His voice cracked. I signed the order. I watched him die. I celebrated his death as justice. I know. I hunted you, called you a traitor, put a bounty on your head that made every wolf in the realm your enemy. I know. I would have killed you. Carlos's hands clenched at his sides. If I had found you before tonight, if I had caught you on the road, I would have executed you without hesitation. I know that too. Silence. Carlos fell to his knees. The Alpha King, the most powerful wolf in 5 kingdoms, knelt before the Omega he had wronged. His head bowed. His shoulders shook. I'm sorry. The words were broken glass. I'm sorry for your father, for your exile, for every day you spent running from a crime you didn't commit. Joy looked down at him. She had imagined this moment, dreamed of it. The great Carlos Jeffrey brought low, begging for her forgiveness. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like grief. Get up. Carlos raised his head. I said, get up. Joy's voice was cold, not with hatred, with exhaustion. Kings don't kneel to omegas. It's not how the world works. Maybe the world should change. Maybe it should. She stepped back. But not like this. Not because of guilt. Not because you need absolution. Then what do you want? Name it. The throne, land, Blackwell's head on a pike. Anything. I want you to live. Carlos blinked. I want you to go back to your kingdom and tear out the corruption by its roots. I want you to find Blackwell and make him answer for what he did. To your father, to my father, to everyone he's destroyed. She moved toward the door. And I want you to remember me. Not as a traitor, not as a savior, just as Joy Beaudry, the girl who could have let you die and chose not to. Joy, wait. She stopped, didn't turn. I was never your villain, Carlos. Her voice was quiet, final. I was never anyone's villain. I was just a girl who saw too much and paid for it. She opened the door. Now I'm something else. She walked into the dawn. Carlos called her name. She didn't look back. If this story moved you, subscribe and hit the bell. Because Joy's journey isn't over. It's just beginning.